Welcome to C-Suite Sherpas, where we shine a spotlight on business experts and resources that you should know. I'm your host, Ron Partridge, and I'm excited today to have Kimberly Davis. She is the founder of Brave Leadership. Kimberly, welcome.
Thanks so much, Ron. I am so excited to be here with you.
Brave Leadership actually transforms high potential talent into confident strategic leaders who drive measurable results. So, can you give us a snapshot of what you do and who you do it for?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me take you back in time, Ron, and tell you how I got started in the work that I'm doing because it's a little bit unusual. I had been working for a leadership company doing engagement work out for, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. I'd done that for about 7 years. And prior to that, I had been in the theater. I'd been an actress for years and years. And so I'm in a class teaching engagement for one of the largest pharma companies in the country. And the director of training sat in on my class and Googled me because I must have talked about my colorful theater days or something in the course of this classroom. And he said, Kimberly, I've always wanted to do some kind of leadership program that used theater tools. And I said, well, I've been noodling something over for years, but haven't had an excuse to develop it. Now, this is back in 2008. And so I got permission to work directly with the client because the company I was working with at the time did not want to touch this. What is this weird theater leadership thing? I developed a full day experiential program for their high potential sales team. And before we were going to roll it out, I did not know if it was going to be any good. I ran an open enrollment version of the program in Dallas because I was living in Dallas at the time before we rolled it out for this pharma company in Philadelphia. It was a remarkable success, more so than I could have ever imagined.
How was it successful? Like, how'd you measure that?
Well, this course that I built was called On-Stage Leadership. I still run On-Stage Leadership. It was kind of the flagship thing that I did.
Yeah.
And it was highly experiential. We would intentionally take people outside of their comfort zone and then create a very safe space very fast. The idea being that as a leader, you're always on stage, because people are always paying attention to what you're saying, to what you're not saying, what you're doing, what you're not doing. And every moment of every day, they're making a decision about, is this a leader I want to follow or have to follow? And if you can connect with them from that place of, I want to be a part of this, I want to follow this person, not like a lemming follows, but I want to give my best to engage, to champion this person. I want whatever that might be. And that could be both up and down the ladder. Then you get all of the things that can make a difference in our business. You get access to their engagement and loyalty and trust and commitment and joy, excitement, passion, and all of their ideas. If you don't connect to their wants, what you essentially get is a paycheck exchange. Yeah. In today's business environment, we can't afford to just have people showing up and giving us a paycheck exchange because we will not get the behaviors we need. Right? We do a deep dive into influence, which is essentially empathy in action, where the whole theater stuff comes in. You would never know. If you didn't know my background, you wouldn't know that these were theater tools. In fact, I've been teaching for Southern Methodist University since 2009, and I never mentioned the theater because the tools are powerful tools. One of the primary tools I use is called your super objective, and it's essentially your purpose set in active language. So in the theater, if you don't have an external focus of attention, what's the impact I want to make here, right? If you're not really clear on what's the impact you want to make, have as the character you're playing, you're going to come off as false. Nobody's going to believe you. Your audience is going to think you're pandering to them, and there's no truth in that. But what creates that moment of truth is this authentic connection of, I want to have this impact on you right now, Ron. So if I'm talking to you, what impact do I want to have on you? What impact do I want to have on you who are listening to us, right? So focusing on that, so I'm not thinking about, do I look like a fool? What do they think about me? Am I making a mistake? All the different things that cause us to play small in the world and cause us to pull back, and also cause all those weird behaviors when we're trying to prove ourselves and impress other people and all of those other things. It allows us to be who we truly are at our core, show up in alignment with our values and our strengths, and take constructive, responsible action in every situation we face. Your super objective is essentially the impact you want to have
Right.
on someone or something outside yourself. If you can name it, you can do something about it.
This is hugely important, and I want our viewers to understand this. I've worked for and with a lot of CEOs in my career. A lot of them have taken theater acting classes, especially improv,
Yeah.
to hone their skills of being in front of people. And like you said, they're always in front of people, they're always interacting with people.
Right. Right.
And people see that and they're judging them constantly on that interaction.
Exactly. But where I take it that a lot of theater programs that work with business don't is that it's not about pretend. A lot of people think, what is acting? Oh, I'm pretending to be someone else. But it is absolutely the opposite in my work. The craft of acting is really about the search for truth. Understanding what drives you at your core, what drives that character at their core, what's their driving need, what's the impact they want to have, and what obstacles are in front of them that are keeping them from getting what they want, right?
Yeah.
And so that's essentially what I do with leaders, help them understand what drives you at your core and how can you have the impact you want to have in the face of all the craziness we face in our businesses, right? We're never going to get rid of the crazy times. That's what life is. But how do you be yourself powerfully, constructively, responsibly? So we get ourselves out of reaction mode and survival mode and autopilot to have the impact you want to have consistently in every situation you face. So it's not just those high stakes moments when you're presenting to your shareholders, but it's how do I have the impact I want to have in this conversation with you?
Right.
And on the next call and on the next meeting. And so we bring that kind of mindfulness and consciousness to the impact that we have, because whether we recognize it or not, Ron, we have an impact in every situation we face, and there is always a ripple effect to that. And if we're not tied into what's that impact I want to have, then the ripple effect will not be what we want it to be for our business and for the results.
The truth is that people know by the interaction if you're genuine or not.
Right.
If it's really coming from the heart or if it's just coming from the head. It's something that's scripted.
Exactly.
People know that, and especially if they're employees whose careers depend on you.
Yeah, exactly. There's vulnerability in that, right? My career depends on you. So I'm vulnerable because I need you to, but at the same time, huge.
So I think it's hugely important. And I love your approach and your thinking about it, because people will follow people who are genuine and who speak their value and speak from the heart. They will follow them very loyally.
Absolutely. And if you talk a good game and say, this is what I'm about, and your actions aren't in alignment with that, people notice right away. Yep. And it's going to cost you what I call their want. It's going to cost you them choosing to be a part of what you're doing. And so slowly, whether it's they're emotionally disconnected from the business, or they're just doing the bare minimum, or they're, become like a big toxic sponge where they drag everyone else down with them, you pay a big price for that.
How do you see this evolving over the next 5 to 10 years with the new cultures coming in? Gen Xers are starting.
Yeah, well, so that is the core reason why my focus, and I've worked with leaders from the C-suite to business owners to nonprofit leaders, but my renewed focus, what I'm really most passionate about right now, is emerging leaders, because I see emerging leaders as the leaders for our future. It's interesting because there's been such a shift in what's required of us as leaders to lead well in today's business environment. Yeah. What used to be considered good leadership is the command and control, do what I tell you to do, or heads are going to roll. Emerging leaders today, they have a visceral understanding that that's not going to work with their people. And they have a visceral understanding that if they don't find a way to connect with their people, they're not going to be able to get the results that they need.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I've been fortunate to do is work with thousands of emerging leaders. And what I've noticed about most of them is they care deeply about doing a great job. Most of the time, it's their confidence they're struggling with. They report to a leader who learned to lead in a very different era. So they're encouraged to lead in a way that doesn't feel right to them. They don't know how to trust their own inner voice. It's rarely that they're not equipped. A lot of the emerging leaders I've been privileged to work with have been handpicked by their organizations to be a part of a high potential or emerging leader cohort. There are millions of people out there who don't have the privilege of working for an organization that has the deep enough pockets to run these special emerging leaders programs. They're really talented and caring individuals, but for whatever reason, they're not showing up on the radar. Most of the time, that's because of confidence that isn't where it could be. I'm getting really passionate. I'm sure that's really shocking to you about
No, that's great.
being a champion for these emerging leaders. I'm lucky that I've been able to teach for SMU, and their programs are remarkable, incredible. But there are a lot of people that are great emerging leaders that don't have an opportunity to attend one of the SMU programs, right? So how do we democratize this conversation? And so to tell you where I came full circle in terms of why I went from onstage leadership to brave leadership is when I connect the dots around all the people that I've been blessed to work with who are willing to be who they truly are, which is a vulnerable thing to do, powerfully, consistently, constructively hold their own feet to the fire to have the impact that they want to have, and are course correcting along the way because they're human. The one thing they have in common is their bravery. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to be who you are and hold yourself accountable to your own values and strengths.
That's absolutely critical. One of the core tenets of building a high performance team is having it built on a vulnerability trust model, trust that's built on vulnerability. Everyone, ability to really challenge each other without being offended.
Because without that psychological safety, you are not going to get those ideas in the room. You're not going to have people saying, I see a problem with this, which is going to cost you millions of dollars down the road. They're not going to say that because they don't feel safe to do it.
Right. And that's where vulnerability starts with the leader.
Absolutely. And you've got to go first. If you don't make it safe, they are never going to offer it up.
Absolutely.
So leaders have to go first.
I'm going to change it up here a little bit. So I want the viewers to get to know you a little bit more personally. So we'll have a lightning round. I'll ask you simple questions and you just shoot me the answers. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Let's start with some easy ones. Coffee or tea?
Both, but I'm a decaf girl. I gave up caffeine about 10 years ago.
Cats or dogs?
We've got a cat. I'm a cat person. I love dogs, but I'm allergic to dogs.
Favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
One of the ones, and I don't want to misquote it, but one of the ones that I've always loved is by Agnes de Mille, and it's referring to actors, but I think it applies to all of us, and that an artist never really knows. We must take leap after leap in the dark. And I think that's absolutely true in terms of my experience, not just as an actor, but particularly when it comes to leading and presenting. It is a bit of a free fall to say, okay, this is who I am. And I'm going to trust, I'm going to take a leap in the dark with you. And I'm going to trust that if I show up fully, that you'll catch me. And what I've learned is that happens every single time. But it's when I don't show up that people are like, I don't know about that.
Sure, right.
Yeah.
That's good. Favorite movie or streaming series?
Oh boy, that will out me. I've got kind of an addiction to all medical TV. I think it's the empathy thing. I like seeing how people show up in these really stressful situations. So I watched the whole thing of Grey's Anatomy. And then when I moved to Costa Rica, I watched it again in Spanish.
Oh, nice. Well, it's good for learning your Spanish.
Exactly. But I think of it as a character study. So there's my justification.
Okay, favorite book?
Oh, favorite book. My brain is filled with a million different books right now. So I'll land on a book I just recently read that I thought was really intriguing. And that's Mel Robbins' The Let Them Theory book. I think she shows up authentically and powerfully, and she just tells it like it is. 10 hours with Mel in my ear while I'm going on long walks, talking about the Let Them Theory was really powerful for me. I'll probably listen to it a couple more times because, you know, my husband thinks that that might be a good idea. Just let them.
Oh. All right, this one I think I know one of the answers to, but it's
Oh,
a
okay.
two-part question. One bucket list item that you've already accomplished and one bucket list item that you have yet to accomplish.
All right. I moved to another country because it was always a bucket list item for me to move to another country
Yep.
and learn another language. We moved to Costa Rica and it was an amazing experience. In terms of my other bucket list, I have this vision that everyone in the world should know their super objective. It's not like people know their strengths or their MBTI or their disc profile, because I have seen it make such a difference in people's lives. You know,
Yeah.
when you know that this is what drives me and how do I do that, it changes everything for you.
Yeah.
I've seen it change people's lives. So because of that, my amazing husband is actually helping me build out an online tool for the super
Mm,
objective because I want to democratize it and it's going to be free. And so we're about ready to launch it out into the world. And I'm excited about people in all different countries that
yeah.
don't have the means to be able to say, what's the impact I want to have on this conversation with my daughter? What's
Right.
the impact I want to have when I go to the grocery store and talk to the clerk? What's the impact I want to have in this meeting with my boss? Imagine what the world would look like if we could all bring that kind of mindfulness to every situation we face.
The last question, the most important one, if any
Oh,
of our viewers would like to get a hold of you and collaborate with you, how would they
yeah.
do?
LinkedIn for sure. LinkedIn is probably the best way to reach me, especially if you're an emerging leader or someone who develops emerging talent, or you are in an HR talent development role tasked with training emerging talent. For me, being able to support as many emerging leaders, and that doesn't mean you have to have an official title.
Yeah.
Right. That means that you're someone who wants to have an impact and make a difference. Reach out to me because I think that's going to take all of us. No one can do that by themselves.
By the way, I can tell you the skill you're teaching is highly effective in becoming a great leader, right? So I would encourage people, if you're wanting to become the best version of a leader for yourself, I would do this. I would do something like this. So, all
Well,
right.
and whether or not we do business together, I'm posting every day about different things because I champion emerging leaders. I think we share a similar passion for connecting other people to good work that's being done in the world. And it's not just about pay attention to Kimberly. It's about, hey, do you know this guy's doing really great work and this woman is knocking it out of the park and we've all got something to learn from this person. So how do we do that together so we
Right.
can all get better?
Absolutely. Kimberly, thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights. I've enjoyed it. Thank you for being on.
Thanks, Ron. I really appreciate you having me on.